Welcome back to another episode of the Stadium Showdown, your in-depth look at the future home of the Cleveland Browns. And this week, the Greater Cleveland Partnership, essentially the Chamber of Commerce for Northeast Ohio, announced that they support the Brook Park move and support a new dome outside of the city of Cleveland. In a statement released by the GCP, they say that after extensive discussions, GCP Executive Committee, with recusals for conflicts, get to that in a second, endorses a dome stadium that anchors a mixed-use development in Brook Park, as well as support for all our professional sports facilities. They go on to say that they also ask that all parties work together for accelerated development of a vibrant downtown lakefront and riverfronts. This essentially is the first group that we have seen to show full support for that Brook Park Dome, and especially one that deals so heavily with Cuyahoga County and with the city of Cleveland. Harry Boomer has reaction on this announcement and why some feel that this is a real stab in the back.
For most Browns fans, this is the only location they've ever known. They've been here on the lakefront for almost 80 years. The $2.4 billion cost of a new proposed stadium is causing big waves, and today the Greater Cleveland Partnership is back in the Browns ownership group.
We are huge partners and fans of our mayor, of the city of Cleveland, and our county executive.
Despite that, the Greater Cleveland Partnership has decided to back the Haslam Sports Group plan to build a dome stadium in Brook Park.
Well, and the Haslams have said that they are committed to seeing both things happen. They are committed to a downtown vibrant lakefront in addition to a dome stadium. And I think by the parties working together, we as the business community are calling on them to continue to work collaboratively towards seeing both of these opportunities forward.
The Haslam Sports Group released a statement about the GCP's endorsement of its plan that read in part, "We are firmly committed to Cleveland and believe our investment in the enclosed stadium and mixed-use development is a generational opportunity for our region and will also serve as a catalyst to reimagine and develop our lakefront." It's important to note that Dee Haslam sits on the board of the Greater Cleveland Partnership. As you know, Mayor Bibb and County Executive Chris Ronayne have repeatedly said the only place the Browns need to play is along the lakefront.
Here locally in the city of Cleveland, as you know, this is a controversial issue, to say the least.
Right.
And with the Haslams having said, well, look, we really don't need your money. We're going to do this one way or the other. Did that play into it or not?
Our focus has really been on the state and ensuring that the state is to follow through on what they are proposing.
No matter what happens, the Browns are locked into a lease here at the Huntington Bank Field until the end of the season in 2028. If the ball bounces the Haslam's way, they will start in their new Brook Park domed home in 2029. I'm Harry Boomer, 19 News.
According to the GCP's website, they say that they are the largest chamber of commerce across the entire United States. So when they take such a hard stance on something that has been so divisive, particularly with officials in the city of Cleveland, clearly there's going to be some issues. 19's Caitlin McCarthy spoke with some members of City Council and heard what they had to say.
The Cleveland City Council says the endorsement was expected as team co-owner Dee Haslam sits on GCP's board. In response to GCP's support for the move, Councilman Kerry McCormick released a scathing statement, saying in part, quote, "It is the worst kept secret in town that GCP's leadership is disinterested in the work of revitalizing our region's core. There should be a change of leadership at this increasingly irrelevant organization or an acknowledgement that they are here to represent the interests of only the ultra-wealthy." Michael Deemer, president and CEO of Downtown Cleveland, Inc., says there is major momentum in downtown, with a nearly complete Sherwin-Williams HQ, upgrades to the Rock Hall and Science Center, and Bedrock's riverfront investments. He says the Browns have an opportunity to bring great investment and accelerate that growth.
We're a resilient city. We're a resilient downtown. If things don't go our way, we will figure it out. But I think we're really focused on the opportunity in front of us. And, ultimately, I hope that the city, the county, our state officials and the Browns can come together and really maximize that opportunity.
Caitlin McCarthy, 19 News.
One day following the GCP's announcement that they would be supporting the Brook Park Dome, there actually was legitimate fallout. Cuyahoga County and the city of Cleveland announced they will be pulling back on multiple committees that they are a part of within the GCP. And that's a very large announcement. Remember what the C stands for in GCP. Stands for Cleveland. So if Cleveland is saying they don't have trust in you and they're pulling out of committees, that is a massive deal. First, I want to show you the committees that they are pulling out of. Civic Vision Committee, City Development Committee, Air Services Task Force. All three of these will no longer have representation from the county or from the city. And we don't know if that's where it's going to end, because according to the statements that were released from the city of Cleveland and from Cuyahoga County, they believe that this is just step one of what they see as a distortion of trust between the two. They start off their statement by saying it has become apparent that GCP does not value its relationship with local leaders and is not acting in the best interest of Cleveland, the county, or Northeast Ohio. Going on to say that Haslam Sports Group has become desperate to show any local support for a project that is wildly unpopular in Northeast Ohio, and the GCP took the bait. Really quickly with this, remember, the survey conducted by 19 News showed a majority of Northeast Ohioans do not approve of the new Brook Park Dome. They want the team to stay downtown. The statement ends with, until GCP reevaluates its position, GCP is in a deep deficit of trust from local leadership, and basically saying, look, they don't want to do business with them while this is going on, and while they are saying they want the team to move out of the Cleveland area, given how much of a difficulty that would be and given just the massive hole that they believe it would leave for the community and, of course, for the economic impact that could fall as a result. Now, we did reach out to the GCP for a statement following the announcement that the city of Cleveland and Cuyahoga County will be pulling back significantly from the GCP, and as of this airing, they have not gotten back to us. Of course, whenever we do get that update, we'll want you to check both on air and online for the full statement, because, yeah, this is a big blow to the GCP, and obviously it's the first largest form of retaliation that we have seen when a company or a group says they support that Brook Park Dome. All right, and coming up after the break, myself and Brian Duffy are going to be breaking down a conversation with Mayor Justin Bibb, how he feels about the next couple of steps that we're going to see, and why he says there's other things that need to be focused on more than the Brook Park Dome. Welcome back. Brian Duffy here with us. Join us fairly regularly. It's almost like it's half your show at this point.
Yes.
Maybe a third. I'm not going to give you that much credit.
Way
Mayor, yeah, you wish. Mayor Justin Bibb was here in studio. Mm-hmm. Really interesting in a way, kind of what he said. Your takeaways before we actually get to the sound.
Yeah, I think it's getting very interesting. I think the one thing we know for sure, that we can say for absolute sure, is that the mayor wants people to know that there is other stuff going on in the city of Cleveland. And I think, that leads to, and when you watch the interview, his frustration. Some people felt like it was his resignation that the Browns were going to move to Brook Park. We're going to get into that a little bit more after we hear what he had to say. But I think the mayor's trying to focus on multiple things when he talks or when he gives answers to questions, and that's hard to do.
Yeah.
It really is. And so Aria Janelle actually asked him a question about the stadium moving to Brook Park and everything that's going on, and it was really interesting. Let's take a listen to what the mayor had to say.
The Browns are going to do what the Browns are going to do. The state's going to do what the state's going to do. All I care about is making sure the city of Cleveland is not left empty-handed, that we prevent any economic harm, that we may realize that the Browns end up going to Brook Park, and by hell or high water, we're going to transform our lakefront to be a competitive, world-class asset.
Yeah, that was actually then followed up with, he left our studio, and then he posted onto Instagram a statement where he basically said, there's a lot of things to focus on in the city. I keep getting asked this question. I know I have to answer it. But yeah, the safety, the concerns about the city, he clearly is trying to almost not divert, but to show that there are other things that he needs to be concerned about than the Browns, right?
Well, that's what he was doing. I mean, he was here not to talk about the Browns. He was sitting on this couch, as a matter of fact, when he answered that question. But he was here to talk about their summer safety program, and that's what they were doing. And that's, I mean, safety of people in the city, that's really important. He got asked the question. He knows that. He's a politician. He understands that. Maybe there's a little frustration. I don't know. But some people thought the resignation of them moving was because he said, well, I'm not the governor. I'm not the legislature. If the Browns move to Brook Park, I just want to make sure that we're made financially whole so that we can move on and develop the lakefront, which is a priority for him. And he means all the money that we've paid, to help reinvest in that stadium, we want it back. And so that's where he was going with
I'm glad you hit on that, because there's actually two things that I want to get to. First of all, he does talk about, fundamentally talks about the lakefront, but we have not heard of what a future lakefront looks like without the Browns. Mm-hmm. He didn't mention what a future lakefront looks like without the Browns, really, right? I mean, there's nothing fundamental in there. So when we look for the future of the lakefront, shouldn't we know what it looks like without the Browns then? If that's the way that he was feeling, I think that's where a lot of confusion comes from.
Yeah, exactly, and because that's a huge footprint there, that stadium. I mean, if that's gone, if they tear that thing down and push it into the lake, and now all of a sudden it's a reef for the fish in Lake Erie, you've got a whole lot more land to develop on there. But I don't think that precludes them from pushing forward, which they are doing, which the mayor also said here in the last couple of days, is that they are talking to developers. They've had them in. Hey, what could we do here? So they're still moving with that plan, which, it's the core to shore to core. Is that it? Or is it the shore to core to, whichever one?
Shore to core to shore.
Right, because they're doing wonderful things already on the riverfront with the Cavs and the Cleveland Clinic facility they're building there at Collision Bend. So I think the mayor wants people to know that he's moving forward with that plan. And so that's why, he released the statement on Instagram.
And I want to go back to your, not resigned, right? Because we don't want to fully say that he was resigned to it, but the acceptance potentially that this is moving forward without the city. And he mentioned they want something back from it financially.
Right.
And that's where potentially the Modell Law could come in, or things like that, where it's basically the Browns could basically pay off the city to move away, right?
Well, yeah, that's what he wants. He wants two things. The money that the city has put into that stadium that now, if they move, is no longer going to be used. They want that back. And then, yes, they also want the payoff. They do want a payoff. They do want the Browns, and he's going to push them into being solid corporate citizens. You're going to hear that if they move, because the Browns need to be part financially of whatever it is going to happen on the lakefront. And I think the mayor heard kind of our reporting that maybe he was resigned to the Browns moving, and he came out with that statement that he said, no, I'm not resigned to we're still fighting that. We've got a suit filed, the Modell lawsuit. We want the Browns to stay. We're going to keep fighting for that. But that interview that we just played you, that sounded, well, you make the decision yourselves on how.
Yeah, it's just not as defiant as maybe someone who's convinced that their team's going to be sticking around. Brian Duffy, as always, thank you so much. Really appreciate the time. And as we move forward on this, we will be including you because your insight is valuable. And
thank you.
It's just fun to chat with you on this.
I'd like to be here.
The other side of the coin within the city of Cleveland, obviously, is then Cuyahoga County and how they feel about everything. Chris Ronayne, been very bullish about literally the opposite of how Mayor Bibb has been.
Right.
Been very much so out front. He does not want this. He wants to be a part of making sure that this thing happens appropriately, and he wants the Browns to stay. The Browns have said no. The Browns have also said they don't need your money, and that is something that Chris Ronayne said he will absolutely keep their word for. 19's Colton Molesky has more from the county executive.
County Executive Chris Ronayne is viewing the response from the Haslam Sports Group last week as a major win for the county.
Is the answer to the question of do you need taxpayer dollars from Cuyahoga County, and they admitted they do not. That's a win for the taxpayers of Cuyahoga County, and I'm proud to represent the taxpayers in that win.
The county executive called the plan for the Cleveland Browns Stadium in Brook Park a, quote, fleecing, and one he is happy it seems the county dodged.
I think they're making a generational mistake in Brook Park. I think they're making a mistake because they're not anticipating what we on the public sector have to think about.
He says those are things like airport problems, traffic congestion, or depleting from the downtown base.
Keeping our taxpayers whole, protecting them from getting fleeced in a boondoggle that doesn't make any sense.
The Haslam Sports Group declared last week they will not rely on county money for the project in Brook Park. And after calling the venture risky and a bad bet for months, Ronayne viewed this news as a big win, a way to free the taxpayers of what he views as a financial burden.
To cast some kind of claim that I'm not being representative of the county because Brook Park is in Cuyahoga County. We care about Brook Park. We're doing economic development work right now in Brook Park. It's a great part of our county, but it isn't the site that makes most sense for the region as it relates to the stadium.
After months of Ronayne and the Browns going back and forth, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell entered the fray earlier in May with a trip to see Ohio Governor Mike DeWine. In a statement, the NFL says the project in Brook Park will have an extraordinary impact on the region. Ronayne had a message for him too.
NFL, listen to your regions, listen to your metropolitan decision makers. Don't be a part of boondoggles that make no sense.
As for what's next, everyone from the Haslams to the county still waiting on the state budget vote coming next month. In Cleveland, Colton Molesky, 19 News.
All right, Colton, thanks so much. And coming up after the break, Dan DeRose breaks down the potential payment options that we could see for the Browns' new stadium. Plus, if you want to tune into any of our previous episodes, go ahead, scan the QR code on your screen right now. That gets you access to every single one of the last 10 episodes of the Stadium Showdown. Much more coming up after the break. Welcome back. With the bridges that have been burned between Cuyahoga County and the Cleveland Browns, and the Browns defiantly saying they do not need the funding from the county, all attention now moves to the state. Because the Browns very much so still need the potential $600 million that the state would provide. So what happens if they can't come up with the funding? 19's Dan DeRose explains.
Let's remember where we are in the process of possibly getting the Browns funding at the state level. It was weeks ago now that the Ohio House passed the budget, and in that budget is a $600 million loan given to the Browns. And then with taxpayer revenue, the increased revenue from that project, it pays back the loan over the next 25 years. That was from the House. Now, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to see the Senate start to debate their version of that bill and take things out and put things in. The Democrats have already introduced an amendment that would pull all $600 million out of the budget, just wipe it out completely. Let's remember the makeup of the Senate. There are 24 Republicans to just 9 Democrats. So that amendment doesn't have much of a chance of passing to pull that money out. But there could be a potential different source of funding from iGaming. We've been talking about iGaming for the last couple of weeks. That being said, Democrats at the Senate level this week held a news conference, and Nikki Antonio, she's a Democrat out of Lakewood, said and put up this graphic and said, you know, this is what we could actually buy with $600 million instead of giving it to the Browns. I have to pause right here. Not exactly apples to apples. The $600 million that's been approved is a loan. What Nikki Antonio is talking about is spending out of the state budget, the pot of money that goes to things like roads and mental health and schools. It's not exactly the same thing. She was asked about that. Does she want to take out a $600 million loan to pay things like H2O, that's what restores our waters, increase library funding at $382 million, Medicaid enrollment from 0 to 3 years of age, child care cancer research for $5 million. She was asked, does she want to take out $600 million in loans? She said, look, this is really just an illustration of some of the different things we could buy with $600 million. How about feed every Ohio school children for a year at $574 million, and then restore mental health support for students at $20 million. She regressed and said, yes, this is just an example, but she does still take issue with any money coming at the state level to be given to the Browns.
And honestly, we may hear that there's yet another idea that comes out of iGaming. I don't know. I have to tell you, while I didn't want to see, I still don't want to see the people of Ohio in one way or another being impacted by money going to the Browns, whether it's directly or indirectly.
Now, I have asked these Senate Republicans exactly what is going to be in your budget that's going to be released June 2nd. They have said to me, we're going to wait until June 2nd. They won't give it to me early. That's understandable. Once they get it June 2nd, we expect there to be a vote by June 12th. They then have to hammer out between the House and the Senate the differences, because it has to be on the governor's desk by June 30th. So this whole Browns saga, we should really have an answer, at least a more clear picture, in about a month and 2 weeks. Dan DeRose, 19 News.
Okay, Dan, thanks so much. And of course, if you have a question that you'd like answered on air, go ahead, scan the QR code on your screen right now. That'll take you to our question page. Gets sent right to my inbox. Love to hear from all of you at home. Again, if you have a question, go ahead, scan that QR code. And that's it for episode 11 of the Stadium Showdown. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back next week with even more. And if it's anything like what happened over the past couple of days, you can expect there to be quite a bit to cover. For now, I'm Jeff Sloss of 19 News. Have a great day. We'll see you all next week.